What if I told you a glass of wine could hide the most heinous secrets? And even more horrific, it may have been given to you by one of the most trusted persons around you. Cloaked in German shadows of times past, this was an unthinkable dread brought into reality. In the 1600s, Europe knew death. Executions were public, meant to be fearful, and good behavior in and of itself. The gallows, the axe, the guillotine, they are tools of the state, brutal, yet visible, while poison is a more insidious way of leaving one's mark on Germany. Unlike public executions, poison did not need any audience. Poison was secretive, quiet, terribly efficient. One drop, one blink of faith, and it dealt death as silent as it was agonizing. Only think of that. A magnate drinking to a toast, the glow of candlelight on his raised goblet, the clinking of glass against glass sounding across a hall. Minutes thereafter, his laughter falters on gasps. He clutches his chest, his body convulses, and the bright life in his eyes dulls before the crowd can even process what has happened. The use of poison as an execution method was not just to take away life. It was a kind of psychological war. It would plant seeds of paranoia, whom to trust, who might betray you, and how one could defend against a death that one could never see. It had been an element of fascination with poison, deeply rooted in Germany's legal system and the games of power. Poison was not only an assassin's weapon, but it was legalized as a means of execution in the courts. Where criminals were deemed too dangerous or undeserving of a public trial, poison quite often proved the silent solution. Take, for example, the case of Anna Maria Schwegelin, an 18th-century German servant girl accused of witchcraft for laying a poison curse on a farmer and his family. She swore she was innocent, yet she had been condemned to die, not by fire, as many witches were, but by poison. Why poison? Because it was the cleaner method, one reserved for those considered too dangerous for public trial or spectacle. It's clinical, chilling just to contemplate, a goblet of wine passing, or a cup containing water in his incredulity. After all, it is assumed to be an act of mercy, one final humane deed. All of a sudden, burning liquid seared downwards inside your throat. At that very instant comes realization. Your executioner wasn't the faceless crowd, but the cup you held within. The substances could range from anything to arsenic being a favorite, since it could produce symptoms of some natural illnesses, while deadly nightshade added other torturous dimensions, including hallucinations and excruciating pain. What's even sicker, not all victims were guilty. Actually, a great many were not criminals at all. Poisoning was a tool of justice, but so it was too in the exercise of power and revenge as well, quite often in charge of everything, or dissolving that flimsy demarcation, separating murder and execution altogether. One example of the former, haunting, is that relating to the Württemberg court of the 18th century. It concerns rumors about several influential deaths via poisons, just by whispered words. Investigations inferred the perpetrators were no less than members of the nobility, to remove rivals and secure inheritance or firm up their power. But even more chillingly brought into light by these modern historians are some records of autopsies done centuries ago, which reveal patterns of poisonings misdiagnosed as natural causes of deaths. Thus, in fact, most of the so-called executions in these cases were murders, camouflaged and legitimized by the powers that be in order to get rid of inconvenient voices. This was not only a question of legality, but deeply psychological. The very existence of poison as an execution method sowed fear in the presence of all things drinks, even closest relations. The executioner wasn't always a figure in the shadows. Sometimes it was a trusted ally, family member, or even the justice system itself. What makes that even more chilling, however, was how this was rationalized poison being sophisticated, the civilized method of death, one that contrasted to axe and stake, but civilized to eliminate anyone that coldly, calculatingly, when so many of the victims were possibly innocent. Poison as an execution method may have been something from another age, but it has cast its shadow yet. It reminds one of the fragility of trust, of the dangerous tendency of untrammeled power. How many lives were lost to ambition, not to justice? How many deaths put down as necessary for the greater good, when in reality they were acts of fear and manipulation? This is one of the most somber moments in German history, and that really raises certain tough questions in front of us. How do we go about making the judgment fair? How do we be certain that power won't corrupt truth? And more than that, how will we learn from the past in order to create a future where horrors of this type aren't even dreamed of? So, what do you think? Is this chapter of history still very far away, or does anyone feel the echoes of this period in contemporary challenges? Leave your comments below. Do you think corruption has finally been purged from the justice system today? And if this story gave you new eyes, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the shadows of history, and share this video with your favorite truth seeker. Thanks for joining me today. Let's keep questioning, keep learning, and keep seeking the truth. Until next time.